Hello, my name is Kai and welcome to the Theoretical YouTube channel where we are really excited about the Owl House. When we first heard that Dana Terrace and Alex Hirsch were working on another show for Disney that was going to have everything we loved about Gravity Falls but tell a completely new story, we were on board immediately. But then I pretty much forgot about it for a year or two, and we never saw it when it was airing because we don't have live TV anymore. But when we saw it went onto Disney Plus, we immediately started binging it, and from the first episode, we knew it was going to be another great show. And it was around the middle of the first season when we started coming up with our own video ideas and theories on the show, and it was at the end of the first season when we knew we had to cover the Owl House on this channel. And so Lauren released this video about why we think Emperor Bellows is actually a human. But all the while, I was brewing up my own grand unified theory connecting this show to Gravity Falls, a video that you can also find here. But while making these videos, we made a crucial mistake. You see, on this channel, we like to keep a lot of traditions, like how we begin every video with the same words, and we play a random clip relating to the video at the end over this, and we still continue to make trivia battles, even though no one really cares about them. Actually, I am really curious to find out if anyone noticed that second one, since it's at the very end of the video and we only have about 30 to 50 consistent viewers across the whole channel who would even have a chance to see it multiple times. So if you did actually notice that second one, can you please leave a comment down below, not just for algorithm purposes, but also for algorithm purposes, and if you do, I'll give you a super special high five. You are not allowed to touch the screen if you did not notice. Anyway, these traditions are kind of a way for us to maintain some uniformity throughout the videos, while also still being able to switch things up every once in a while. However, one of these traditions is that whenever we cover a TV show as opposed to a book, movie, or random math problem, we try to recreate that show's title sequence at the beginning of our video. But the thing is, the Owl House's title sequence is actually really hard. I mean, just look at this shot. How the heck are we supposed to recreate that without an actual flying staff and a giant worm monster? Come on, she does a flip! But when they released the intro for Season 2, it looked like it was going to be a lot easier. Until it's literally the same shot, just set at, dusk. Anyway, Bill Cipher's back. He's the real villain of the Owl House. Let's just get on with it. Here's the best I could do. Alright, let's get into what you really clicked on this video for, the theory. In this corner, a show with its own great setting, cast of characters, and a villain with a mysterious past, the Owl House. And in this corner, and this corner, the Dream Demon from the second dimension himself who just wants to wreak havoc on Earth, Bill Cipher. How could these two things possibly collide when they don't even exist in the same universe? Well, I could spend the next 20 minutes establishing the connection that these two worlds share, or I could just point you to our previous video that we already showed up here that all but conclusively proves a direct connection. In fact, all I need to say right now is that Bill Cipher is actually already in the Owl House if you're looking hard enough. He's right there, on a sticky note behind a poster in King's Demons 101 lecture. There's also things like this clock that kinda looks like his eye in a pyramid, but that's definitely not a reference to Bill Cipher because of this quote from Alex Hirsch himself. Y'all kiddos gotta learn to differentiate a common eye of providence from Bill. Just memorize this simple rhyme. No, bippity boppity zill, if there's no top hat, it just isn't Bill. But that sticky note definitely has a top hat. But the next question you might be asking is that even if these two worlds are connected, how could Bill be back if he died at the end of Gravity Falls? Well, I'm not so sure of how effective a job they did at killing Bill in the first place, considering all it took was a day of scrapbooking to bring back all of Stan's memories, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. They somehow erased Bill Cipher from Stan's mind without getting rid of all of his memories. So then how could Bill possibly be back? Well, to that I would like to introduce you to my lawyer. Well, at least that's what Alex Hirsch would say to anyone asking about a spoiler during his 2013 Reddit AMA. This is an axolotl. In the real world, they are a cute-ish, they're actually kinda creepy, albino salamander from Mexico, and in the Gravity Falls universe, they're probably just the same thing. Except for one, which is actually a giant interdimensional being on the same level as Bill Cipher, Jezzel Brown the Unswerving, and Time Baby. Additionally, in the real world, axolotls are very closely connected to the Aztec god of many things, including twins, chaos, monsters, weirdness, and disfigurement, Axolotl. The story goes that during the god's creation of the fifth sun, apparently 4 others failed, they realized that the sun would not move across the sky unless it had a sacrifice. And so the gods took turns sacrificing themselves, but when it got to Axolotl, he cried so hard that his eyes popped out, and then tried to run away, transforming himself into a few things, one of which was an axolotl. Eventually, the other gods found him, and depending on the version of the story, he was either sacrificed or he got out of the sacrifice as long as he took the responsibility of sacrificing all of the other gods. Which leads me to 2 quotes from Gravity Falls properties. The first comes from the book Dipper and Mabel and the Curse of the Time Pirate's Treasure, a select-your-own-choose venture. In this book, Dipper and Mabel find themselves face to face with the giant axolotl, and it says they may each ask one question. Mabel asks, "Who are you?" to which it responds, "The axolotl." Then Dipper asks it what it knows about Bill Cipher, to which it recites this prophecy. 60 degrees that come in threes, watches from within birch trees, saw his own dimension burn, misses home and can't return. Says he's happy, he's a liar. Blame the arson for the fire. If he wants to shirk the blame, he'll have to invoke my name. One way to absolve his crime, a different form, a different time. Now, we don't exactly know what all of this means, but a few things are clear. The first to establish that we are indeed talking about the same Bill Cipher as we've seen in the show. There's only one triangle that watches from within birch trees in Gravity Falls, or anywhere. The next line gives us a bit more of Bill's backstory. Although we already knew that he incinerated the second dimension based on his conversation with Ford in Weirdmageddon, but the next 2 lines give us a bit more insight into Bill's personal feelings about his actions. He regrets destroying his home, but he refuses to take responsibility for doing so. And finally, the last 4 indicate a way out for Bill. A loophole to cheat his own death and be reincarnated. All he has to do is invoke the axolotl's name and he will be brought back in, quote, a different form, a different time. Alright, so I have no idea what the actual story is behind this whole prophecy thing, but my own personal theory is that the axolotl is similar to the Aztec god Axolotl, and that it is its job to oversee the death of god-level beings throughout the Gravity Falls universe, including Bill Cipher. And somehow Bill has found a way to give himself a second chance, even if he is killed before he can take over Gravity Falls' prime dimension. Perhaps he made a deal with the axolotl, or this prophecy has just always been a thing. But did he do it? Did he invoke the axolotl's name before he was erased from Stan's mind? Well, yes he did, and if you don't remember him saying this, it's probably just because he didn't watch the episode backwards. Silly you. Here's Bill Cipher's final words played forwards.
What's happening to me? And you're asking me about another one!
And now played in reverse. If you couldn't hear it, or the scene was just too awesome for you to pay attention, he said, AXOLOTL, my time has come to burn, I invoke the ancient power that I may return. And with this, it's pretty much confirmed that Bill isn't dead, at least not fully, and it would be totally possible for him to pop back up again. But if he does, it will almost certainly not be in a Gravity Falls branded story, since he will return in another form, in another time. Besides, Bill is done with Gravity Falls in general. He's spent thousands of years trying to get in through there, and he's gotten 3 people to either build or rebuild a portal to the Nightmare Realm, but it has never worked. There's also a literal force field around Gravity Falls keeping him in, and there are too many people there that know his tricks and secrets. he might as well just completely start over somewhere else. Enter the Boiling Isles and Emperor Bellows. As I said before, the Owl House already has its own perfectly capable villain behind its story, and it doesn't need another big bad to just swoop in and be even more evil. But that's not what I'm saying. You see, I think Bill learned a thing or two after the events of Gravity Falls, and if there was one mistake he made, it was being too obvious. Sure, he was tricky when it came to making deals and such, but he never shied away from the spotlight. This allowed people like Ford to learn as much as they could about him in order to defeat him, which resulted in things like a Bill-proof bubble around the Mystery Shack, or Dipper, Mabel, and Soos pursuing and defeating Bill on their very first interaction, armed with nothing but the information in Journal 3. And Kitten Fists. In fact, because Bill was too obvious, the ancient Native Americans learned about the Zodiac. Ford found it painted on a cave wall, and the gang almost used it to completely defeat Bill if Stan and Ford could have just held hands. And so this time, on his third attempt at getting to Earth, he should probably take a more subtle approach, pulling strings from behind the scenes so as to not draw attention to himself. Which is why Bellows is still the main villain of the Owl House. So what are Emperor Bellows' goals, what is his plan to go about achieving those goals, and how do they compare to that of Bill Cipher? Bellows' main objective is to make a portal to the human realm and to fuse it with the demon realm in the Day of Unity. He specifically doesn't want to wage war on the humans, nor does he want to rule over the human realm. In fact, almost everything he does is the will of the Boiling Isles themselves, as he can supposedly communicate with the fallen titan that's body makes up the archipelago. In more recent episodes of Season 2, we get some evidence to suggest that he may wish to go to the human realm for its distinct lack of wild magic in order to fix a pretty major problem he has. But that's getting into some pretty mucky spoiler territory, so we'll just skip along past that. All we need to know is that he wants to establish a connection with the human realm and that he got the idea from the Titan. And his plan to go about building this portal originally began with his rise to power and the creation of covens. A long time ago, there was a period of time called the Savage Ages. So named because witches and demons alike used all kinds of wild magic to spread chaos and destruction. But then Bellows came along, told everyone that he alone could communicate with the Titan, assumed the throne, and ended the Savage Ages by establishing the Coven system. Covens are a way to limit the magical potential of a witch, forcing them to choose a branch of magic when they graduate from school and locking away their ability to use any other type of magic forever. I assume that when you do this, you become more powerful in the specific category of magic, so it's not a complete loss of power, but still, variety is necessary in a witch's duel. Which is why the only coven that gets to keep all of their magic is the Emperor's Coven. However, in return, they must directly answer to the Emperor at all times. You know, we've made fun of some of the more ridiculous sub-covens in the past, but if your power is condensed with every sub-coven you choose, that could be pretty awesome. Like, within Animal Handling Coven, there's Tiny-Cat Coven, and within Tiny-Cat Coven, there's Tiniest-Cat Coven, and now I'm just thinking of an extremely powerful Tiniest-Cat spell, and it's terrifying. Anyway, besides the Emperor's Coven, there are 9 main covens: Abomination, Bard, Beastkeeping, Construction, Healing, Illusions, Oracle, Plant, and Potions. Remember those, they'll come up again later. And now that Bellows was in charge, he began his search for a way to get from the Boiling Isles to the human realm, and in doing so, he learned about Ida's magic door. Ida's door, or at least the key, was made with the blood of a titan, a substance so powerful it can span realms, making it the only easy way for characters to get to and from the human realm. But, spoilers for the end of Season 1, the door is destroyed. Luz blows it up to keep Bellows from getting it. But, spoilers for the end of Season 1, Bellows is still using the door to create a portal to the human realm. And this is the most obvious parallel between the two worlds. A portal to the human realm is what Ford built in Gravity Falls and what Bellows is building in the Owl House. But Ford is building his portal to better develop his grand unified theory of weirdness, while Bellows wants to use the portal to merge the two realms together. Their goals are completely different. And that they are, but even if Ford thought he was building the portal to study the weirdness coming from another dimension, we all know that wasn't really what was happening. Much like Bellows, Ford didn't have the idea for the portal himself. He had a muse, a godlike entity that convinced him that he was special, that he alone could speak to him, and that he should make this portal for the betterment of society. And by now I think you know where I'm going with this. I believe that Bill Cipher is pretending to be the fallen titan in the Owl House. In Gravity Falls, Bill Cipher couldn't build a portal to the human realm himself because he didn't have a tangible form there, so he had to teach someone there to do it for him. First with the Native American man, and then more successfully with Ford. Bill is a creature of habit, and because of this, he's doing it again. It's the exact same trick. He pretends to be a muse that has chosen someone for greatness, and uses his new influence to convince them that building a portal is the best way to solve their problems. For Ford, that's the grand unified theory of weirdness, and for Bellows, it's... But Bill isn't an idiot. He knows that this plan has failed before, and he wants to fix his mistakes. Just like he dialed it back after revealing too much of himself to the Native American, resulting in the discovery of the Zodiac, after what happened in Gravity Falls, he's going to be as anonymous as possible. Maybe even to the point of us never seeing him. Or is that too much lampshading? In fact, I don't even know if Bellows has seen Bill, and if he has, it wasn't a very clear image. Why do I say this? Well, the sticky note in King's lecture isn't the only place we see something that resembles Bill. In fact, Bill is everywhere. From Amity's Magic 101 book to the banners outside the castle, and even around the Emperor's neck. Because the Emperor's Coven emblem is Bill Cipher. Granted, it's not an actual picture of him, because that would be way too obvious, but just look. It has an eye and a triangle with wings sticking out in the exact same way that Bill holds his hands. But Kai, what about the top hat? Alex Hirsch said that if there's no top hat, it can't be Bill. And to that I say, you're right, there is no top hat. But look at this image of Emperor Bellows from King's history book on the Boiling Isles. What if Bill did reveal himself to Bellows once? Maybe it was an accident, or he intended himself to be obscured. Either way, Bellows only caught a glimpse, and he misinterpreted the fine details, but still got the overall figure correct. Or the real Bill was the Emperor's symbol once, but Bill got mad and forced him to rebrand or something, and this book was written in the transition. But looking back at this page, there's something else that indicates Bill's involvement. The eyes around the Emperor's head. You see, everyone and everything in this show that has eyes has a specific type of eyes. Round eyes. Seriously, watch this show and notice how aggressively round everyone's eyes are. It's just the style of the show. With only 5 exceptions where things have these almond-shaped eyes. The first is their couch, but I don't really think that matters very much. Then there was Pinette, the book salesman, but I don't think he has anything to do with this. And more recently, the Echo Mouse showed a depiction of Ida's door being created, with an almond shape turning into the circle that we normally see on the door. But I think that might have just been an animation choice. Then there are the last 2 depictions. The eyes surrounding Bellows' head, and the beginning of the intro sequence opens with this kind of eye. So where am I going with this? Well, as you might have guessed, this kind of almond-shaped eye is another classic part of Bill's design that has been used before to signal his presence. Like in the poem from before, Watches from Within Birch Trees was a reference to when he was first summoned by Gideon in Dreamscapers. Even when he's not there, he's always watching through this shaped eye. Just like he's always watching the Emperor, and even the audience in the beginning of every episode of the Owl House. Also, that would just be a very neat Easter egg if that was Bill's eye, because no one would notice or even care about it until after he's revealed. Another example of how for these 2 plans to work, both Bill getting to the human realm and the writers bringing Bill back, subtlety is key. But subtlety isn't the only thing he's changing about his plan from Gravity Falls. Sure, his flamboyance and outgoing nature led to the discovery of the Zodiac and his eventual defeats, but this time he's not taking any chances. In this new plan, Bill made sure that this ancient power could never be used against him like it was before, and the way he did this was with the last part of Bellows' plan that didn't quite match up with Bill's. The Coven system. At first you might assume that the Coven system was just a way for Bellows to depower every witch that wasn't closely aligned with himself, but there's one key detail that helps Bill tremendously. Once again, here are the 9 main covens. Beastkeeping, plants, construction, bard, illusion, oracle, abomination, potions, and healing. And now, look at these next to the symbols of the Zodiac, and things start to line up pretty perfectly. Beastkeeping is Pacifica because the symbol is a llama, Plants is Dipper because the symbol is a pine tree, Construction is Soos because he is the Mystery Shack handyman, Robbie is Bard, Stan is Illusion, and Gideon is Oracle because that's their whole deal, and then we're left with 3 that may not be so obvious: Abomination, Potion, and Healing. Abomination goes to Ford because whether he likes it or not, he is himself an abomination. His disfigurement drives his entire character, and for the last 2 we actually get a bit of an explanation from Ford himself.
The symbols needn't all be literal, Dipper. It just has to be someone cool in the face of danger. Much like the spectacles need to be someone scholarly.
And now these 2 seem pretty obvious. Who would be cooler in the face of danger than a healer that could fix any wound? And what form of magic is more scholarly than potions?
I don't expect many of you to appreciate the subtle science and exact art that is potion making.
But now there's a pretty big problem with trying to line these 2 lists up. There are 10 zodiac symbols and yet only 9 specialized covens. Does Mabel just not get a coven? Is she the Emperor's coven? It just doesn't seem to fit perfectly. But what if that's the point? What if Bill had Bellows create the covens to match the zodiac symbols, but he left one out? Because these 10 people are bound to naturally occur in the wild, but if you force them all to align with only 9 out of the 10, then the ring can never be complete, and Bill can never be defeated. Except by those who don't belong to a coven, just like our main characters. So what is this missing coven? What do Mabel, the Shooting Star, and Luz all have in common? Well, the Shooting Star is pretty clearly a representation of Mabel's personality, being a constant beacon of joy and hope in the darkness, and Luz plays into that perfectly as the name Luz literally means light. Additionally, the first spell she ever uses is a light spell, something that we only ever see wild magic users cast, and here's the real kicker. She first learned the light spell from watching Ida cast it in slow motion, but where did she first see the glyph in nature? Written among the stars. Sure, it's a bit cheesy, but I believe that the missing coven is the Light Coven, and that is how Bill will ultimately be defeated, and that is why this is still the Owl House, a great original story with original characters and original themes, even if Bill's the real villain. Or not. I mean, the chances of this actually happening are slim to none. I agree that this is already a great show that doesn't need to bring back someone like Bill Cipher to be successful, but imagine what would happen if it did. There would be so many Gravity Falls fans that have never even heard of the Owl House that would immediately go to Disney Plus or even buy Disney Plus just to binge all of it. And who knows, maybe that would even inspire Disney to confirm more than like 5 episodes of Season 3. Anyway, this was a long video, and if you're still watching, then thank you so much. Hey, if you catch that soundbite in the end, then you can even go back and get that high five if you missed it. And while you're at it, you can like this video if you did, and subscribe if you want more like it in the future. If you're looking for something right now, though, we have this video that I mentioned earlier, proving the connection between these 2 worlds, and this video that apparently you'll like. I mean, YouTube chose it for you. But that's it for now, so as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.
Wow, I failed you as a principal.